Hey, how are you doing? I am doing this today because I'm creating a video about my coming out. I've seen a lot of people do it recently, and I realized I never really had. And this, honestly, is probably about as much for myself as for anyone else. Of course, this is for other people who might want to be coming out, who might come out, who might see this. But anyway. I guess we'll have to start off with the fact that I grew up in what I would personally consider to be a cult, and I will refer to it as such. I'm not going to bother naming it, but that's what I would refer to it as, and I'm sure there are people who were parts of it who would disagree with me, but just given everything about it, I would say that. And that's actually a story for a whole other time, so, we're not going to bother talking about that too much. And when I grew up, I was always very different. I was always very different from everyone else. I was picked on a lot. I would say bullied. There was, to a large extent. I wasn't, beat up every day. But, I was, so in that sense, I wasn't really bullied in that sort of sense, but I was put down a lot by people. I was called names. I was, made the efforts to try and, I was made the object of toughening up by people. In fact, there was a mother who told my mom, mother of one of my acquaintances, who told my mom that she thought it was a good thing that people were doing this because I needed to be toughened up. In growing up, I always felt like I was more or less being told that sex and sexuality were bad things, something to be ashamed of. Now, this might have been just me. I'm not sure, but it wasn't really something that was talked about much. My mom and dad did give me the talk. They gave us this little book. It's like some sort of mommy and me book or something. But in the cult I was part of, dating was not encouraged. In fact, it was discouraged. And, there was just a lot of stuff like that. I remember, there being a big deal if a guy and a girl held hands. And I guess, none of this is... Well, it is related to my coming out because I basically grew up in an environment that I would consider to be fairly repressive of a lot of things. And I also grew up, trying to... Because no one would really accept me, I grew up trying to... really, really hard to fit in. I think more so than most people. Because I desperately just wanted to have people accept me. But it felt like most people never really did. They kept on wanting me to be something else that I wasn't, or they made fun of me, or things like that. I wasn't really taunted or anything for being gay. Because at that time, I didn't really realize I was. In fact, I didn't really even know what the concept of gay was. Gay or straight. I never went to sex ed or anything like that. So I didn't have this concept of being gay. I just knew that I would get, excited, when I looked at guys. I remember watching Top Gun when I was young. And, being much more interested in Tom Cruise and Kelly McGillis during the love scene, and watching Terminator, and same thing with Michael Biehn versus Linda Hamilton. I think I've always, to that extent, I've always sort of known. I just, didn't know what it meant. I assumed this was the way a lot of people felt. And then there was... the fact that, what was I going to say? Anyway, oh yeah, then when I was in like high school, this may sound a little creepy, but I actually did sort of keep lists of guys I'd seen in partial state of undress. Again, it was almost something that was exciting to me. It really excited me in a way, not because I was like trying to be a voyeur or anything, but just because it was sort of forbidden, and oh my god, look what I'm getting to do, so I know that maybe sounds a little silly or creepy, but that's the sort of environment that I sort of grew up in, and or at least the way I perceived it, which I think is even whether or not that was the way it actually was, my perception sort of made it that way, if you know what I mean. So and I was really, I was picked on throughout middle school and high school. In fact, I had a friend in high school who we had known each other since he moved to my middle school when we were in, I believe it was either end of 7th grade or it was 8th grade, or beginning of 8th grade, and he basically threw me over after we went to high school together. The high school, which in fact was like about a half hour, 45 minutes from my house, and I didn't drive, so but he threw me over for what I can only assume because I wasn't popular enough. It sort of seemed to be the idea, like he wanted to be with the popular kids, and I just was not. I was not popular. And I had a couple people in high school who really picked on me a ton for a lot of things. So high school was to a certain extent pretty miserable for me. I mean, and like I said, none of this was really because I was gay. It was more because of other things, but I feel that some of these other things were sort of fed by the fact that I was gay, and so I was different for that reason. But then I went to college, very conservative Christian college. Big emphasis on dating and marrying someone from the college. And that was the first place I ever really had this idea of being gay, when other people weren't. So that really sort of, where that really sort of first came in big time. And, I remember, the gym showers and everything. I mean, those were, I had to say I enjoyed them. Again, it's just, it's getting to see something I don't, normally get to see. And because, like I said, it had been sort of forbidden, I, was getting to see that. So, that was sort of, and then there were guys who were always talking about girls, and I never really felt, I was not attracted to girls, so I could never really talk about them. So there wasn't really much, for me to talk about with other guys. So, I would often just sort of, sit and watch. Not like, peeking through windows or anything like that, obviously, but, I'd have, as I'm working at my dorm door open, and, if a guy walked by, without a shirt or something, I, quick sneak a peek, I'm sorry, but pretty much standard stuff, I'm sure for a lot of people. And, anyway, then I graduated college, and after an internship in DC, I worked at a restaurant where I met my first guy who was gay, and that's sort of when I started to come out, and I went through the whole process of saying I was bisexual first. I do know that there is such a thing as bisexuality, and that not everyone who says they're bisexual is actually gay, but in my case, was what happened. So, just for the record. But, and so, we went out, and we went out once or twice to some gay bars and stuff, which was pretty cool. And then, I sort of started slowly coming out after that. When I came out to my mom was like, oh, did I do something wrong? Oh, what happened? And she wanted me to try and go to groups for gay men who are Catholic, or as they put it, men who experienced same-sex attraction, and so, and she's like, well, I think once she even asked me if I could just get married anyway, because I've always dreamed of having just a big, huge church wedding. I mean, that's that's the way I am. I would love to have a big, huge church wedding, with all the bells and whistles, the flowers, the bows, all that stuff. That's the sort of wedding I would love to have. But obviously, nothing really happened with any of that. I do remember when I came out to my dad, we were going to drive, and after I told him it was like a 15-minute drive home, he was quiet the entire time. He got out of the car. I thought he hated me, so I actually sat in the car sort of crying. I got out. He came up to me, and for the first time in my life, he gave me this big hug and said, "Thank you for feeling that you could tell me about this," which I think was the best present my dad has ever given to me, was that just complete and total acceptance of this is who you are, and I'm not going to try and change you. I'm not going to question it. It's just the way you are. And I honestly think that was the best present my dad could have ever gotten me. It took me a long time to come out to my friends because I thought they would reject me. I misunderstood a story about earlier, and I'm not about someone else from the group, and I'm not going to go into that. But I'm still friends with them. And then I started working in school, a Catholic school, 2 Catholic schools actually, and I had to hide. I basically had to go back in the closet and hide who I was because I'm working in I'm working in a Catholic school, and there are people who I just didn't know how they were going to react, and I had several kids and who kept on trying to set me up with when they graduated from middle school and went to high school, they were trying to set me up with their teacher. Or I even had a mom who tried to set me up with her daughter, which, let me tell you, that one was interesting. But obviously none of that happened, and it really wasn't until after I stopped teaching that I think, completely accepted myself for everything. And religiously, I still consider myself a Catholic, albeit a lapsed one, because I believe in 90% of what the church teaches. I just look at the fact that the church seems to treat myself and other LGBTQ people as second-class citizens, second-class members of the church. And I feel like, we're told you're intrinsically disordered is the church's term. And, there's something wrong with you. So I cannot, in good conscience, be a part of the church for that reason. No matter what else I may believe. I'm not going to say anything else about the church other than that. That's the reason, honestly, why I haven't been to church in several years. Is because of that. So, but now I'm, for the most part, in a pretty good place. I, I'm out to all my friends and people at work, and everyone is has been accepting of me, which has been very nice. And so anyway, that's just sort of, I don't know how orthodox or unorthodox my story is. I just think it's very different from some others. Like I said, I was never bullied for being gay, at least not explicitly, but anyway, there you have it. So thank you if you've watching this. I know this has been almost 16 minutes of me sort of rambling on a little bit about my life. So if you've been listening this whole time, thank you. And if you have any comments, please feel free to leave them. If they're hateful comments and you feel you really have to leave one, whatever, I'll probably just ignore it. So anyway, thanks, and bye.